I was scrolling through various websites and stumbled across this stunning purse. What was not so stunning, however, was the price tag. So I drew the purse, mapped out a pattern, found some old fabrics laying around my house, went to Fabricland to find the gold accents, and then I realized I'm doing way too much work to not make a mediocre video about it. For this pattern, I figured I needed 3 different fabrics: the main fabric, the accents, and the lining. But before I did anything, I ironed them out so they were nice and smooth. So the first thing I did was trace my paper pattern onto my main fabric. The one I used was linen, so it's pretty flimsy. I do think I should have used some sort of interfacing to make it harder, but that's a note for next time, if there is a next time. After that, I did the same with my lining fabric, and then I traced out the denim details. I was originally going to use this old skirt for my denim details, but as I was looking for other fabrics in my grandmother's bajillion fabric bins, I found a new denim fabric. So instead of cutting my perfectly good jean skirt, I'm going to bring it to Ecuador this summer and give it to my cousin. You're welcome, Maria Paula. After all that, I used pins to align my purse fabric to my lining fabric and started sewing. If you're doing this, it's important to remember to leave a little space open and to position them the opposite way of how you want the finished product to be. The backs of the fabric should be facing you at this point, because once you're done sewing, you're going to flip it inside out so all the seams look more professional. Then you can sew the little space that you left open for the flippage. Keep in mind that once you do sew your purse together, it'll be a little bit smaller than your original pattern, because you're sewing the hem into it. So if you want a specific size, I would add an inch of wiggle room. Once I did that twice, I then did the part that's going to make the purse 3D. Realistically, it would be so much easier if I didn't do the middle part and just sewed the faces onto each other, but I just really love to make life difficult for myself, especially when it's my first time doing something, so I opted for the harder option. Once your 3 faces are all sewn up, it's time to sew them together. But before that, I hemmed a little piece of denim so that I could attach the buckle in between the base and the front side of the purse, just like my inspiration purse. Once I hemmed it, I folded the front face of my purse in half and pinned the loop in place. This is where I was an idiot, because I forgot that you can't put a ring on a closed loop. So, in the future, I would definitely put the D-ring in the loop before I stitch it into the purse, just to prevent a minor meltdown, no biggie. Once the front and the bottom were sewn together, I then pinned the back onto the other side of the bottom and did the same thing, this time without the added stress of sewing a buckle in. Then you can flip it inside out and see your purse come to life. It's a real purse now, kind of. My next plan of attack was to make a phone pocket in the back. The inspiration purse didn't have that, but this is how I can get away with blatantly copying a designer brand. I first hemmed the top of the pocket, where I wouldn't be sewing it onto the purse. And at this point, my camera died, but I didn't want to lose momentum, so I started documenting the process with my phone. So I started by flipping the purse over and drawing a line with a ruler where I wanted the bottom of the pocket to be. Then I matched that line up with a line I drew across the bottom of the pocket, pinned it into place, and folded it so I could see what it would look like. I folded it back down so I could sew directly onto the line, and then I folded it back up to admire my work and pin one side in place. I sewed this side to the fabric using the same backstitching technique I did for the rest of the denim hems, pinned the other side, sewed it up, and then decided to also sew along the bottom to make it look more finished. And that's a pocket right there if I've ever seen one. The next step was to hem the weird piece of denim that'll be holding the clasp in place. Now, let me tell you, anytime I was hemming the denim, I couldn't help but think $400 isn't actually that much money. I'm sure I wouldn't be thinking that if I had just faced my fear of a sewing machine, but that's neither here nor there. This is here and now, and I sewed it all by hand. At this point, I could have totally sewn something nice onto the back, like another piece of denim, just to cover the mess that is the back of the stitched piece, but I got lazy and cut some corners. Sue me. I sewed the clasp onto the front of the weird piece, and then I turned it over to sew the back of it onto the pocket to keep my phone in place. And at this point, I was pretty impressed with myself. I then got teeny tiny pieces of denim, hemmed them, yay, and fed them through another D-ring before I attached them onto the corners of the purse. This will be to keep the handle in place. The next step is what I was looking forward to the least, making patches. I hemmed these oval-looking patches off camera and spent probably 30 minutes playing around with their positioning before I pinned them into place and bit the bullet. So I sewed them over top of the hem so that it didn't look too messy. I sewed them on the front first, and then I used some fabric scraps to stretch out the purse, sewed it onto the back, and then pinned the corners so that I'd be able to fold them nicely before sewing those down. I'm saying that like it was super easy, but let me tell you, I hated every minute of it. Then I moved on to the zipper. I love doing the zipper, and I knew I would. But first, I got my mommy to cut the ugly zipper pull off the zipper I bought from Fabricland and replace it with the pretty zipper pull that I got from Fabricland. I would have done it myself, but I was too tired and my nails are too long and my hands are too weak and I just didn't want to. In order to sew the zipper, I pinned it in place and then unzipped it. In order to make it flush to the purse, I ended up putting the zipper inside. Like I used the teeth as a guide and propped them just above the seam of my purse, and then I used a similarly colored thread to sew it into place because I couldn't hide the stitch with this part. I did the back stitch a little bit differently this time, and by that I mean I stitched it normally one time, but then I went all the way back, just crisscrossing. So it looks back stitched, but really it was stitched back, if that makes sense. And the zipper was done! Honestly, sewing the zipper was my favorite part. This could have something to do with the fact that I did a speech about zippers when I was in elementary school, but it also could be the fact that it was definitely the easiest and most rewarding part of the purse. Then I got some pieces of denim and tried to stitch them together and then turn them inside out, but it got all frayed because I'm dumb. So I stitched it back up to make it look like a design choice. This took a lot out of me. I hated it. But when I was done, I sewed them onto the D-rings that I put in earlier and my purse was officially done. And that night, I slept like a baby.
Introducing the Eskina Original Jerse, completely hand-designed, cut, and sewn. This stylish, slightly crooked blue linen purse has splashes of old denim elements with antique brass detailing, with a back pocket that conveniently holds most phone models, a wallet, a small calculator, a Harry Potter themed pocketbook, or an unspecified number of balloons. This purse has it all, from purse to strap. What more could you ask for? And with our fancy D-rings holding up the strap, you can attach your own straps from other, more professionally made purses, or perhaps a belt to further customize your look. Keychain galore over here. Call now to receive your very own Eskina Original Jerse. For only, how much did you say this thing costs?
Now is the moment of truth. This whole time I've been telling myself that it's better for the environment and my wallet if I just make a purse from scratch. But I don't actually know if I spent less than $400 to make this purse. So let's find out.
The total cost of the Fabricland purchases added up to $13.84. But what about the labor cost? Minimum wage in Ontario is $17.20. I started this project on Wednesday and finished on Sunday. On Wednesday, I drew the design and the shapes and I looked for the fabric. I'd be generous and give that 2 hours. On Thursday, I bought the accents from Fabricland and cut the fabric. This will probably be another 2 hours. On Friday, I sewed the first face of the purse, and according to my footage, that only took about an hour. On Saturday, I spent 10 hours on it, and my parents were concerned for my health. And on Sunday, I spent 6. So that's 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 10 plus 6. That makes 21 hours. 21 times 1720 equals $361.20. And then add that to the Fabricland purchases, and that's $375.04. Yeah, that's right. This was only $25 cheaper than this. I bet you couldn't even tell, huh? Yeah.
Is it a little scraggly? Yes. But is it mine? Absolutely. I spent 21 hours making this purse. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. And for my first time making a purse, without a pattern, without the proper fabric, without a sewing machine, I would say this is pretty cute. And that's my first resolution off my list. 1 down, 11 to go. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye!